Hello everyone, 76 Patriot here, and today I want to do my official presidential prediction for the month of August. And in fact, I'm probably actually going to start doing these bi-weekly or so at this point, just due to the almost daily changing state of the race, it seems, at this point. But without further ado, as we always do when filling out these maps, we'll start off by getting the safe Democrat states out of the way. Of course, we have the left coast here, as I love to call it. Bunch of these New England, northeastern, and mid-Atlantic states as well. A lot of these states, I think, will certainly see some improvements for Trump, certainly, since 2020. I think even like Washington and Oregon, heck, even California, a number of these states will probably, particularly Delaware too, because Biden is no longer on the ticket, of course, so he can't use that home state advantage. But a lot of these states, I think, at the end of the day, will probably be very likely be outside of kind of that 10-point margin that would deem it safe, even though I think Trump will make significant gains. Again, New York and New Jersey are two states that I still believe will be safe Democrat at the end of the day. They were kind of we're kind of debating whether or not there was some contestation going on potentially due to some polls that came out of both states back when Biden was the nominee. Um, I think they'll still be safe at the end of the day, although we'll see. I think New York certainly will trend significantly to the right. We haven't seen a lot of polls with Harris on the ballot, but we'll just have to wait and see. What other states? I'm just trying to look really quick. Okay, we got Illinois. I know there's definitely not a lot. I always kind of like to remark it's pretty surprising how few safe Dem states there are out of the gate for Harris in this case. Colorado, again, pretty inflexible at this point. It's by long past being a sinking ship at this point for the GOP, sadly. But that's basically it for us. So we have 191 safe Democrat electoral votes, I think, from the get-go. So moving on to safe Republican states, there are, of course, a lot of these. And I know, as I always like to say, sure, people say, land doesn't vote, and I get what they're meaning, but still, just to see this huge sea of red is a pretty beautiful thing, in my opinion. It's just pretty crazy when you think about it. All these states gonna go big to Trump. I think you'll see some hard swings to the right in nearly every one of these states, probably relative to 2020. Of course, Maine's second is going to be safe now. It was not last time, due to trends with white working class voters, particularly. And the same thing can be said of Iowa and Ohio, which I believe were around 8 or 9, I think about 8 points, both of them, in the past two cycles. And it's pretty interesting, again, kind of crazy to think these are both Obama states back in the day. They're now part of the solid kind of GOP winning coalition, if you will, at this point. And I think Trump plus 10 easy. Probably he's going to win by more in both of these states. But regardless, I think we have Alaska for sure. Trump is going to perform better there. And we have Nebraska's at large. And you know what? I think that is actually it for the South Carolina. Almost messed that one up. Okay, I think that's officially it for the safe Republican states. So we have 191, 149, pretty much out of the gate. Even, we could say barring an upset. You know what? I don't even think an upset would really shake up any of these states because these are kind of locked in for the GOP, for the Democrats at this point. So this is both of the parties' floors, I would say. So as far as moving on to likely Dem states, there's definitely some that could be kind of debatably placed in this category. At this point, I'm not entirely sure, honestly. So I'm actually not going to put any states in this category. And again, I could be kind of being a bit misled here if I don't do that. I just don't feel like I want to do that right now. So I guess we're actually moving on to the likely Republican states. So back into red territory here. We're going to start off with the state of Texas. And Texas is a state that has seen a lot, not a lot, significant, massive erosion for the GOP in the past 2 decades. Ted Cruz barely won his race by like 2 points. It was Trump's, I believe, second lowest margin of victory in a state that he won, next to North Carolina. So it's definitely, wasn't looking good for the GOP in the past couple years for sure. But I think Trump is on track to win the state by about 8 or 9, probably, just because Hispanics. He's probably going to do so well with Hispanics in South Texas. He did last time, so there's no reason to think that he won't do the same again. And we'll just really have to see what the big urban centers do. I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I just don't have kind of the gut feeling that they're going to come out in full force like they did. A lot of them did for Biden in 2020. I just don't. I can't see a scenario in which that happens at this point. And but also I believe the only other likely Republican state is the state of Florida. Florida is a state that has been zooming to the right like mad. I have not seen a state like it in recent memory, probably, that has just fundamentally changed so stinking much. I mean, seriously, Republicans are at like a 1 million. They just crossed this mark recently, actually, the 1 million um, voter registration numbers that they outnumber Democrats by 1 million. That is crazy. In the former very bellwether state that decided infamously the 2000 election, I think Trump's going to win Miami-Dade County at this point and probably just crush it in the rest of the state. Probably Trump plus 7 at the end of the day, maybe even more. And that's it for the likely Republican states. So we're definitely getting up there now, 219. Um, as far as the lean, so I guess we're kind of in the leaner category now. As far as lean Democrat states, I would probably have to put the state of New Mexico. This is one that is kind of really tough. Certainly one of the toughest states on the map for me to put. I'm torn between putting it as likely Dem, just because I don't want to be too bullish and optimistic. I really do think that I could see Harris winning a state by like 8. But at the moment, Hispanics are just trending so much to the right. It's scary for the Democrats. I mean, seriously. So I could see Harris plus 4, maybe plus 5 in the state, just shy of a likely margin. We'll have to see. I think some Republicans, some of us, were getting too bullish, if you will, about the prospects of a theoretical Trump win. I just can't see that happening, sadly, at the moment. But we'll have to see. Same thing with Minnesota. Minnesota is one that I think will trend to the right, certainly by several points since 2020 when Biden won it by 7, quote unquote, won. But still, Tim Walz, of course, is from Minnesota. He single-handedly helped to destroy whatever remains of the state he was handed. But regardless, I think that may, cushion their margin there by about a point, but not much. It's proven kind of that Veeps don't really deliver a state, at least not all that often, to the winning ticket. So Minnesota, I could probably see Harris like plus 4 at this point. This is one I'm less optimistic about than I was when Biden was the nominee. And also just RFK seems to be having a lot less momentum than a lot of people, but certainly me, thought so. I thought he was going to get a significantly bigger chunk of the vote. And you can't win in Minnesota as a Republican, really, without high third-party turnout. Again, these are all subject to change, of course. If the Harris campaign crashes and burns like the Biden campaign did, we still could see a huge upset. So I'm not ruling that out. But let's move on to, actually, let's keep it in the north here, northern part of the country. Let's do Maine's at large. And this is a bit of a downgrade. I had this as tilt Democrat, I believe, in the last prediction. I think if my memory serves me right. And this is one, again, for whatever reason, I just could see Harris doing a little bit better, even though it's a predominantly, Maine's a very, very white state, one of the whitest in the entire nation. It's just a district where you have a lot of white liberals. I'm sorry, not a district, state rather, because it's the at-large allocation. It's just there's a lot of kind of these white liberal types that would totally vote for somebody like Harris. I don't know why. I just kind of have that sense that I could see Maine going probably like Harris plus 4. It's not going to be a heck of a lot because, I think Trump lost it by 3 or something in 2016 and then by like 7, no, was it 9 in 2020? But regardless, not one that we should really be banking on, if that makes sense. Same with New Hampshire. There are a lot of Democratic leaners in this one, guys. New Hampshire is a state that used to be kind of a very swingy, and it still is on the state level, but a kind of a true swing state. Now it's been very Democrat leaning. You have so many, Bostonites from the Massachusetts coming up and living there and taking their icky policies with them. And this is one I could see Harris taking by probably 3 at the end of the day. Maybe 4, in fact, actually. I think there will definitely be, Trump will make some gains since last time, but I just don't think it'll be enough at the end of the day. And our last Democrat leaner is Virginia. This is one that actually, also another downgrade. I had it as tilt Dem on the last one. This is a state that is not particularly fond of Trump, particularly in Nova, especially. And I think that Trump will do significantly better across a lot of the state. Heck, it was a safe Dem state last time. Biden won it by like over 10, which is insane to think. I think that Harris will probably win it closer to Hillary Clinton's margins, which I believe she won at about 5 in 2016. Probably a bit less, actually. She might only take the state by like 3.5 at the end of the day. But this is one Republicans, including myself, were getting our kind of hopes a bit too high about. I feel like there was a bunch of polls that came out that showed it being a close race. I feel like Harris might, in truth, energize some of those minority voters in Nova, maybe Asian Americans, Black Americans. We'll just have to see. I do think, though, that it will be quite a bit closer race from 2020, for sure. No doubt about it, I think. So maybe that can help a couple House candidates. We'll see. But regardless, I think that is it for the Democrat-leaning states. Oh, wait, actually, I lied. Well, this is not a state, so I guess I didn't lie. But it's a district. Nebraska's second. Nebraska's second is one, I almost missed that, guys, that has trended to the left like crazy. It's where Omaha is. You have a lot of your kind of suburban and urban liberals there. Trump narrowly won it by a squeaker in 2016, lost it by closer to, I think it was like 7 in 2020. I'd probably see Harris taking this by about 4. I think there'll be some swing back towards Trump in the suburbs, but it just won't be enough, in my opinion, as of right now. So that's it for the lean Democrat states. Now to the lean Republican states, or state, because I actually think there's only one here, and that is the state of North Carolina. North Carolina is a state that has received a lot of talk, particularly recently, due to some closer than usual polls. And you know what? We'll actually go take a look at that. I have it pulled up right here. So we can see that in the few polls that have come out recently, Trump leads Harris by just 3 points. He was leading Biden by a lot more. I believe it was like 6 or 7 at one point, maybe even more. That's definitely been trimmed, and this honestly is a realistic margin. As somebody who is very familiar, relatively familiar, I should say, with state politics as a resident, I can say that this is a margin I kind of expect Trump to win the state by. 3 points, he won it by about 3.5, I think, in 2016. And this is not out to lunch, in my opinion. This is a realistic scenario. And I think that that's probably what's going to happen. I think Harris might slightly uptick some voters in the large urban areas, maybe some black voters that would not have voted for Biden, but it's not going to be enough at the end of the day. So North Carolina is one of kind of the big 7 toss-up states people always talk about, and it really isn't. It's really only 6 big toss-up states, at least in my opinion. So Trump plus 3 probably at the end of the day when it's all said and done. So we're at the point now, guys, to where obviously this is Trump's 2020 margins as far as the states that he won. We're at 235 to 226. Anything above this point, of course, would be needed beyond what he won in 2020 to give Trump back the White House. So moving on to the tilt states, and just kind of a word of warning, there are no tilt Democrat states. So I'll just kind of spoil the rest of this video for you. But maybe I shouldn't have done that. But still, let's start with the state of Nevada. Nevada is a state that has seen some big trends to the right. And, particularly with Hispanics in Clark County, where Trump needs to do well, particularly the largest union, or one of the largest culinary unions in the entire state, endorsing, they didn't endorse Trump, of course, but they endorsed his no tax on tips kind of idea. And that's absolutely huge. I think Nevada's going to vote for Trump probably by maybe a point and a half, probably maybe 2 points. We can look at polls. Trump currently leads Harris by 4 in the few polls that have been out. That definitely sounds realistic. I know polls sometimes overestimate Republicans in Nevada, but that certainly sounds probably slightly above real. Although, you know what, I could see Trump winning by 4. Nevada is certainly voted to the right of the nation the past couple times, so I wouldn't even discount that. But all of it is tilt Trump right now. And then we got the state of Arizona. Oh man, this is a weird state. A long-time Republican stronghold, narrowly flipped to Biden's second, I believe the second smallest margin of any state Biden, quote unquote, won. And Arizona, Trump currently leads by just under 3. And again, I feel like these are realistic margins, honestly. I feel like some of the polls before, as great as they were, to look at them and be like, man, Trump is, up in Arizona by 6 or whatever, it sounds great. And it probably was realistic for Biden. But I feel like this is a bit more reality. And I'm not buying into any of the garbage polls that come out. But it just feels a bit more realistic and grounded, if that makes sense, to keep us kind of staying on our toes, if you will. So Arizona, I think, will probably go Trump by about a point and maybe a point and a half at the end of the day. Not by much. I don't know if he'll win Maricopa County. He doesn't have to win, provided that he just runs it up like a crazy man in the rest of the state and all the other red counties. I think he probably still very, very narrowly loses Maricopa County, but does precisely that. He runs it up in the rest of the state at this point. So with Hispanics swinging hard to the right, I think Trump takes both Nevada and Arizona, although there is a scenario, crazy it would be to look back electorally, to which Nevada voted to the right of Arizona. So with that said, let's actually finish the other state in the Sun Belt, which of course is the state of Georgia. And we'll pull up polling in the state of Georgia. Now, this is crazy to me, guys. I don't want this video to run on too long, but I got to talk about this for a little bit. Georgia's a state that was Trump's best in poll. Well, his best out of the one that he lost in 2020, narrowest margin of victory, and also the best out of any, I believe, that he was polling. I mean, he was up like 6 or 7. It was crazy. And now this is one of his smaller leads. He's only up by 0.8. So what in the world happened? I think a lot of it is response bias, kind of the Harris honeymoon kind of season, if you will. And then I think I am getting a little bit, I wouldn't say worried, but I am legitimately thinking, you know what? Perhaps Georgia is a state where Harris does have some kind of appeal. Maybe in suburban Atlanta, which has grown so massive, it's over half the state now. There is some kind of, ability to turn out some of the black voters. So I don't know. Georgia's still a state that I think will definitely go Trump. I still think it is the easiest, or one of the easiest to win as far as demographics go, as far as election integrity. Of course, there's been a lot of reform. So I still think Trump will probably take Georgia by around a point and a half, maybe 2 points, maybe more. But as of right now, Trump is still sweeping the Sun Belt, which is great. He still would not have eclipsed or crossed the threshold to win the White House. So that, of course, is dependent on the Rust Belt. So if you look at the Rust Belt, Wisconsin, I'm going to put that as tilt Republican. I think Trump probably takes it by like 1.5, maybe just 1. We'll have to see when it's all said and done. Wisconsin is 1. If I get the right state here, yep. Wisconsin is 1. Harris is actually leading in the aggregate, which is crazy. Trump was leading not too long ago, albeit narrowly. She's up by 0.5. And this is one, we can see Trump never had a massive lead. +2, +1, +1, tie. So Wisconsin's a state, it's basically the inverse of Nevada. Nevada usually overestimates Republicans. Wisconsin basically always, for the most part, overestimates Democrats, barring 2022 a little bit. Um, they had Trump did not lead a single poll in the entire state in 2016. He was down in like high single digits to Clinton, and he still won. So the fact that Harris is up by just pocket change basically doesn't scare me at all. Although I think it is still an indicator that we need to keep working. We need to keep registering voters and legally harvesting ballots and all that stuff. So Michigan is one. So there we crossed 270. Michigan's a state that is you know what? Actually, I'm going to skip Michigan. I'm going to go to Pennsylvania. Makes more sense. Pennsylvania is kind of the second easiest to win out of the Rust Belt trio. It voted for Biden by about a point and maybe just over a point in 2020. And it's a state that I think Harris will probably win even by less right now. I mean, sorry, not win. I think Trump will win rather by more right now. Bit of a slip there, guys. Because Shapiro is not in the ballot, which was a major mistake, I think, but he's not. Major mistake for the Democrats. I think it's a great kind of victory for us. Trump is still leading. Interestingly enough, he is up by almost 2 in the state, which is a great thing to see. All these liberal polls, Bloomberg, they're coming out with Trump +4. I mean, this is crazy. So Trump, I think, is a great fit for the state to energize the white working class voters. You got Vance on the ticket. You just got to hope that Philly doesn't come in with truckloads of ballots from New Jersey in the mid-morning hours. And, that's basically it. Trump is still, I think, on track to win the state as of right now. So probably he'll win it by a point, maybe just slightly under. Again, some of this election integrity stuff is hard though, guys. You just got to hope and pray, and I mean that seriously, that it doesn't happen. There are ways to get involved. There are definitely good organizations we can be partnering with. I'm looking into that myself personally, some of that to do before the election. But still, turnout. We got to get turnout as high as we possibly can. And then moving on to Michigan, before I elongate this video too much. Michigan is the single state out of all these that I could legitimately see a Harris win. I really don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. I think Trump is doing so well with white working class voters that he is still going to win. And these states, I don't believe won in the past, it's been decades and decades since one of these states broke from the others. They all usually vote, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, in line for the same candidate. Doesn't matter which party it is, they do. They're pretty similar, I shouldn't say pretty, somewhat similar demographics, particularly as far as trades is concerned. So Michigan's a state, I would find it hard to see the other two going Trump and Michigan breaking that trend, but I could definitely envision it out of any swing state, just to being more blue. Detroit is huge. You got some massive cities. Probably the worst state in the entire, well, certainly out of any swing states, as far as this bloated voter rolls and abysmally run elections. But I think Trump is probably on track to win the state by maybe, I don't know, half a point, maybe a quarter of a point. 0.2, I don't know, but certainly a small margin. Harris leads in just by 2 points in the RCP average. A lot of that is due to this freakishly crazy Bloomberg Harris +11 poll, which is just out of this world crazy. I think that the either Trump +1 or tie is probably more realistic at this point. Also, Michigan famously overestimates Democrats too, usually, in presidential years. So moving back to this, we can see Trump basically does a repeat of 2016. He doesn't really gain anything new as far as other states, but he does. Well, I guess the only difference is that he loses Nebraska's second. But other than that, everything's basically the same. I think it's possible that he could pull off an upset. If Harris is crashing and burning, he could pick off New Mexico or Virginia or even Minnesota. Who knows? Not ruling it out. But at this point, we got to aim for this scenario right here. We got to win for victory. We got to keep fighting. We got to keep pressing on. And I'm kind of preaching to myself too. What am I doing to help Trump defeat the deep state this time? So with that one, guys, hopefully we can look back in the history books, see this as a result. Again, let's just keep pressing on to victory in November, and got to make America great again. So with that said, hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more stuff like this, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.